Look at the stoic, rigid features of this marble bust of Aristotle. For centuries, the physical sciences have operated on a similarly cold, mechanical assumption. The universe is an unthinking machine. In this classical view, reality is a theater of inert, colliding particles, and human consciousness is a localized biological accident. But as our microscopes and colliders push deeper into the quantum substrate, that rigid clockwork is fracturing. Down at the Planck scale, empty space is not empty. We find a frenetic, boiling sea of quantum fluctuations, where the old mechanical rules simply break down. Primordial resonant spectral theory proposes a shift in this architecture. It treats the universe as a highly ordered, syntactical medium, a living mind articulated through the geometry of the vacuum. Here, physical laws act as grammatical constraints. Standard physics is excellent at measuring what happens inside the box of reality. It gives us accurate equations for mass, energy, and gravity, but it describes the behavior of matter without explaining the principles that generated the box in the first place. To understand why physical matter behaves the way it does, we have to trace the construction of the box backward, all the way to the absolute, formless void. Imagine an absolute ground state, a singular, infinite expanse without shape or feature. In this state, nothing can be measured or defined. Infinity cannot be comprehended without a primal distinction to separate one area from another. The first act of creation is the drawing of a boundary. By closing a shape in the void, you isolate a specific space. That insulation creates a difference in pressure, which immediately draws an energetic current across the new perimeter. Because that energy is now trapped inside a finite container, it bounces against the walls. It begins to resonate. Over time, the conflicting waves cancel each other out, leaving only perfectly symmetrical, vibrating geometric patterns known as eigenmodes. These stable, standing waves of resonance are the foundation of what we call physical laws and matter. The vibrations themselves are the substance. If you could look at this resonating container from the outside, with a complete view of the energy flowing across the boundary, the entire system would appear mathematically predictable. But to an observer trapped inside that boundary, the system looks different. When you only have access to a partial view of the waves interacting around you, you cannot predict the absolute outcome. Within this framework, probability is what absolute determinacy looks like from inside a bounded system. The uncertainty we measure in subatomic particles is a statistical necessity of our restricted vantage point. The observer functions as the active boundary layer, the brain that translates the vast external environment into specific internal resonance. As these bounded elements drift and interact, they communicate. They match their frequencies and synchronize, lowering their collective entropy to form a single, higher-order structure. This recursive synchronization acts as the syntax of physical reality. It builds atoms, it organizes cells, and ignites stars. The stable geometric shapes function as the nouns of this language, while the dynamic forces pushing them together act as verbs. We see this grammar at work in the boundary between non-living and living matter. Standard physical structures, like salt crystals, grow outward in repeating lattices. Biology, however, must terminate that growth to construct a finite, functional shape. To stop this periodic expansion, biological life employs specific mathematical ratios. Look at the helical geometry of this DNA molecule. The strict boundary and the golden ratio underlying its spiral act as a physical acoustic dampener, caging energy to stabilize an organic form. The universe also enforces strict limits on its verbs. We can observe this in single-bubble sonoluminescence, where intense acoustic waves are used to trap a microscopic pocket of gas. As the bubble violently collapses, the acoustic pressure is compressed past the physical capacity of the spatial grid. The kinetic energy runs out of room to exist as a mechanical sound wave and is forced to radiate outward as visible light. The sound is sheared directly into light. This suggests that physical reality is dictated by a strict mathematical grammar. When the mechanical limits of a noun are breached, the energy is forced to become a new word entirely. These mathematical constraints scale from the heart of the galaxy down to the human body. Every atom in your brain, the helical cage of your DNA, and the coherent state of consciousness are temporary, harmonic standing waves woven into a resonant lattice. You are the external environment, localized into a self-referential cavity. Through your perception, the universe is experiencing its own boundaries. By decoding this syntactic structure, the role of science moves from the observation of thermodynamic debris toward the predictive engineering of the vacuum itself. We begin to interact with the underlying code of reality, using the same geometric rules that construct the physical world.